Well, I wonder, did you wince the last time you filled up your car with fuel? Did your eyes goggle at your most recent gas or electricity bill? If you did, you are not alone. The cost of living is rising like a souffle inside a billionaire's spaceship. This morning we learned that prices rose at their fastest rate for a decade, pretty much. But although inflation affects practically everyone, it doesn't affect everyone equally. Take the cost of fuel. At the weekend, the average price of diesel went through the 150p a litre mark. A year ago, I could fill up the standard 55-litre fuel tank of my Volkswagen Golf and it would set me back £65. This morning, it cost £81. Cripes. If you're trying to manage a tight household budget or working for yourself, these are big swings. Big enough, perhaps, to prompt changes in your behaviour. When driving gets more expensive, some people drive less. Those who can afford to might ponder a switch to an electric vehicle, but not everyone can exercise these choices. Not everyone can afford to. Inflation is a bully. It picks on those who can't change their consumption habits, whose behaviour, to use the phrase employed by economists, is inelastic. Think of the mother who lives in an isolated rural part of Britain. She needs a gas-guzzling 4x4 to get the kids to school. She's already paying more than £500 a year in car tax because the government thinks that only rich urban folk drive SUVs, and now her fuel bill has risen by a fifth in a year. How can she avoid the ill effects of inflation? Well, the AA recently said motorists should shop around for the best prices. That's not easily done in those parts of rural Britain where petrol stations are as rare as hen's teeth. The same goes for pensioners who are getting by on a fixed income. If they live in an out-of-the-way place where there are no buses, the car is a lifeline. And what about those of us who haven't retired? Again, the effects of inflation are felt differently and not always deservedly. If you have a company car or drive for the public sector, you won't worry as much about filling up as someone who's self-employed, the taxi driver or the white van man. These are not small numbers. How many vans do you think there are on Britain's roads? The answer is nearly 5 million. 5 million, most of them powered by diesel engines. If you're a plumber, an electrician, a builder, there are only so many costs that can be passed on to customers. These people, I would submit, are the backbone of our economy. More than that, they are an important part of our polity. Working for yourself, by which I don't mean working from home, but getting out there and meeting people in their homes as tradesmen do, is something to be encouraged and indeed celebrated. These are people whose livelihood depends on doing a good job, building a reputation and being self-reliant. They're not coddled by HR departments or the taxpayers' largesse, and nor are they insulated from the cost of living. And speaking of insulation, it was encouraging to see those activists from Insulate Britain given jail terms today. How many of them, I wonder, fret about the cost of fuel? How many of them drive for a living? How many of them indeed drive at all? Well, though it's taken time, they've now been punished for blockading motorways and busy roads. But do consider this. When the police were being so utterly ineffectual, who was it that was dragging activists out of the way of ambulances? It was the white van men. And who read the demonstrators, the riot act, while police were busy fetching protesters hot coffee? It was stressed out mums doing the school run.